Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters. I'm Moreh Rapha'Yah. We're just going to go ahead and jump into today's parasha, which is parasha Ekeb or Ekeb. This parasha is very deep, but very easy to understand if we know the concept of Torah. Before we jump into this Torah portion, I will encourage all of you to subscribe to this channel so you can get the latest production, because we always on the working on every production, and every week hopefully we are always coming out with new productions, either teachings or Torah portions or produce videos that we make, and that will help not just myself but all of you to understand a little bit deeper into the mind of our Creator Yahweh. So let's just jump into this Torah portion. Once again, it's Parasha Ekeb, which means if, and there's other meanings on this Torah portion. This has a lot to do with us. Chapter 7, verse 12 of Deuteronomy or Devarim, all the way to 11:25 is the Olive one says Ekeb, and it means, and it will be if you tishme'un, if you obey, if you hear these judgments, these mishpatim, and observe them carefully. Yahweh your Ayil Almighty will faithfully keep for you the covenant, the berit, that he made under oath with your fathers. See, this is a very important verse to start off, not because it has its meaning embedded into our fathers, but ultimately it has a lot to do with each one of us. Now that you come to know a little bit of Torah, you start to understand the mind of our fathers. Why is it that our Creator made this covenant with Abraham, Yitzhak, Jacob, and so forth, and it was passed on through generations until now? This berit, this covenant that the Creator made with our fathers, it is super extremely important for us to understand why is that he made those that covenant until this very moment. But this Torah portion starts off in a very peculiar way. And let's go back over here. Ekeb means it will be. But before we get to this word Ekeb, let's find out what Tishme'un means. Tishme'un comes from the word, and let me pause here for a second, Shema. Shema means not just to hear, but also means to obey. The Creator wants us to listen to His word, to listen to His mitzvot, to His judgments, to His commands. And a lot of people tend to think that the Creator, we're supposed to love Him relating to your emotions, because you love the Creator, because you feel that you love the Creator. It has nothing to do with your feelings. It has nothing to do with your emotions, but rather it has a lot to do with your obeying the Creator, your obedience, in other words. Mashiach is very clear when he said, if you love me, keep my commandments. Later, 2nd of John says very clear, in these we understand that we love the Creator, Yahweh, by keeping His commandments. So once again, this has nothing to do with your emotions. The Creator doesn't really care about your emotions, but rather He cares about your obedience, your action. Because we can feel all you want, but if you don't do anything at the end of the day, don't mean anything. A lot of people tend to think and tend to say a lot of things like they love the Creator, but they do the opposite of what the Creator says. Mashiach, Yahushua, says very clear, not everyone that calls me Master, Master will enter into the kingdom of Yahweh. Why? Because everybody claims that, but doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything unless you do your action towards the Creator, and that's why our father Abraham came to action, because he literally did what the Creator asked him to, and that's what obedience is all about. Now let's go with the Ekeb, but before that, look at what Ekeb means. In the Targum Yonatan of the Aramaic version of this verse, if you receive these judgments, keep them and fulfill them, Yahweh your Almighty will keep with you the covenant with and the Rachem, the mercy that He swore to your fathers. He will give you this gift, and this gift has a lot to do with this. Ekeb not only means the hill or the result or how much or the end, but also, if you notice here, the compensation that or a reward that Yahweh will give you by doing these commandments, these instructions. At the end of the day, that's what it is, brothers and sisters. At the end of the day, this is what the Creator wants for each one of us, to always relate to the Creator by understanding the character of Yahweh, and that's what it's all about. So let's continue. See, if you notice here, Psalms 19 verse 1, if you read the whole chapter, it talks about the Creator and how He wants us to keep the Torah and understand the Torah. But look at what it says at the end. By means of them, thy servant is warned. In obeying them, there is a great reward. You see that? Same as what the word Ekeb means. There's a reward if we actually do the commandments of Yahweh. There's a reward if you action what the Creator said that we're supposed to action. But the problem is that we talk too much, but we don't do the action. It's talk to talk and walk to walk. And that's what it's all about. Book of Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 14, you will be more blessed, the word is Baruch, than all other peoples. There shall be no barren male or female among you. And also, your livestock also should prosper. In other words, what the Creator wants from all of us is to understand this reward. The word for Baruch is bless, but we have to understand a little bit more deeper than bless. Bless is more like a word that is being embedded into the scriptures, but it's an abstract word. The actual word for Baruch in the Paleo Hebrew, it is to kneel down. But what does it mean? In other words, Moreh Rapha'Yah, you mean to tell me that that the Creator is going to bow down to me? We have to understand the mind of our Creator and the Hebrew language of our forefathers. To kneel down, it means that the Creator is kneeling down to you and to all of us, just like Mashiach kneeled down to the disciples. Why? Because He's offering a reward to us. Let me ask you, each one of you, how many of us, actually did when we were kids? When we were kids, what happened? Our fathers, our male fathers, they used to pick us up because we were kids. We used to lift us up on the ground and lift us up to raise us because we were kids. Our Creator is doing the same thing. He's lifting you up like a baby, and He wants to hug you. He wants to reward you because we are His children. Chapter 58 of Isaiah, YHWH, read it please. It talks about the Shabbat. And the Creator says very clear, if you be warned to keep Shabbat, listen to a Shabbat, and keep it, not talking your own words, not walking your own ways, and if you do this, you will eat your father Abraham's seed, and Yahweh will lift you up. It says very clear. In other words, that He's giving you a reward, in other words, if you keep at least the Shabbat. You see that? So there is always a reward at the end of the day. Deuteronomy 8, verse 9. The land where you will eat abundantly and lack nothing in it, in the land where stones contain iron and hills can be mined with copper. The reason why the Creator speaks about all this is because if you really think about it, about the iron, about the copper, it has a lot of meaning on it, because with iron you can actually do a lot of things. You can actually make weapons to guard your cities, copper to make things like cities, okay, and build anything that you can help you growth. Like today, in a lot of companies, in a lot of countries, what do they use to make things abundantly, to growth? In other words, they use this kind of materials, iron and copper. And it's very useful today for a lot of things. The Creator is already telling our forefathers the same thing, that they will prosper, in other words, and what they will do. Chapter 8, verse 10, you will eat and be satisfied. You will be blessed by Yahweh your Creator for the good land that He has given you. Be careful not to forget, and this is a warning for all of us, not to forget your Yahweh your Creator by not obeying His mitzvot, His commandments, statutes, and judgments that I am commanding you today. It is a fair warning from Yahweh to each one of us. It is a fair warning to all of us that we are understanding the mind of our Creator little by little, studying His Torah. See, studying the Torah is not just to study. Studying Torah is also understanding what is it that Yahweh wants for all of us today. To execute His commandments, to apply them in our lives, to love your neighbor, to assist the needed, to clothe the naked. All this Mashiach speaks about, but He speaks in a different way so you can have a better understanding. But the Torah actually speaks about all this. But with the problem nowadays, especially in America, is that because we have an abundance of a lot of things, we tend to forget what we actually have. I know we like to have a nice car. I know we like to have a lot of money in the bank. I know we want to have a bigger house. But at the end of the day, we have to acknowledge the root, the source of everything, which is the Creator, Yahweh, our Creator. Without Him, we have nothing. And that's what the Creator said, be careful not to forget the Creator. At the end of the day, He is the source of everything. Look at what it says here. Hosea 2:8. For she does not know that I was me who I was giving her the grain, the wine, and the oil. And the reason why I bring in this very verse is because if you read the entire chapter 2, 1 and 2, chapter 1 and 2, but 2 more precisely, you will understand that it speaks about the house of Israel, us, Ephraim. And it speaks about our previous life, our previous practice, our previous way of do things. In the past, we were idolaters. We used witchcraft. We used a lot of things, okay? Because there's a lot of background that we coming from. The problem is that we tend to forget where we're coming from. We were idolaters. We were thinking that Guadalupe or Mary or this saint was doing this miracle, but in reality, our Creator was in the backstage taking care of us. And He's bringing us like a zigzag, bringing us here to the Torah, to the truth. And now we understand why the Creator was doing all this, because He wanted to show you how the Creator works. He works in the mysterious ways, and just a fact. Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 14. You may become proud, forgetting Yahweh, you Almighty, who brought you out of the land of Mizraim, Egypt, where you live as slaves. They will think to themselves, my own power and my strength from my own hand has given me this wealth. And this could happen. This could occur. But we need to acknowledge always where all this is coming from. Doesn't matter what it is that comes from our lives or to our lives. We always acknowledge the Creator because He's the source. That's what the title is, the Creator. He's the creator of everything. If we do things, let's make sure at the end of the day that the things that we have, the things that we use with our hands, is because our Creator is giving you the strength, the knowledge, the power to do a lot of things. But the source is always Yahweh, our Creator, not our own selves. And this could happen because an abundance. It's funny that when we are always in trouble, we always come to ask Yahweh for the rescue. But when we don't need anything, we never go back to the Creator and thank Him because what we have. And that is a problem today. I'm not saying all of them, but there are a lot of people that tend to forget where all the source is coming from. Deuteronomy 8 verse 18. No, you will remember Yahweh you Almighty, for it is He who is giving you the power to acquire wealth, to confirm His covenant, which He swore to His Abot, His fathers, as is happening today. See, the problem is that we think that we have a beautiful face, a beautiful likeness, and because we're tall, we have a lot of muscle, we have this way to carry ourselves. Is none of that. It's because Yahweh made the covenant with our forefathers, and it's being passed on from generation to generation to this day and age. Not because of ourselves. It's because of the covenant that Yahweh made with Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Chapter 10, verse 16. Therefore, circumcise the foreskin of your heart and do not be more stiff-necked. Our Creator wants us to work from the inside out, not from the outside in. The problem with this secular world today is that they tend to forget that everything originates from the inside out. It's just a fact. And the problem is that we try to change people from the outside in. It doesn't work that way with our Creator. It's a pattern to follow. If we follow that principle, that pattern, until now, will we understand the mind of our Creator? Here it says very clear that we need to be circumcised the inside of our heart out. See, when the Creator asked our father Abraham to circumcise, the physical circumcision okay, the foreskin of his reproductive system, he needed to do the heart circumcision first before that happened. When he was ready, Yahweh said, now you do the physical foreskin circumcision. And then he did. But he needed to do the inward circumcision first. And that's the way it's always been. The Mashiach was very clear when he said, clean from the inside so the outside can be clean as well. He said it very clear, brothers and sisters. Look at what it says here. The Targum Onkelos in this chapter 10 verse 16 of Deuteronomy. You must remove the stubbornness of your heart blockage, not to become more stubborn. The problem is that we, the house of Israel, are very stubborn. We are stubborn by nature. Our DNA follows that. Our forefathers, the house of Israel, were very stubborn. Stiff-necked. That's another meaning for stubbornness. And we follow the same trend, the same pattern. But we need to learn from the past. We need to learn from our forefathers not to be stubborn, to remove that blockage, to remove that foreskin so we can circumcise ourselves from the inside out. I'm not saying the circumcision outside is not good. No, I'm not saying that, because the Torah speaks about it is very important. But we need to circumcise the inside so the outside can be also as well. Jeremiah 9:25. The days are coming, says Yahweh, that will visit upon the circumcised their circumcision. The time is coming, and the time is here where Yahweh is visiting our inner circumcision. A lot of people tend to think that circumcision outside is very important. It is. Don't get me wrong. But first, we need to start off with the inside circumcision. And believe me, the rest is going to come. A lot of people tend to think that the peyot, the sideburns, which I do have, the talit, which I do have, the prayer shawl, the tefillin that we put on in our hands, right? All that is very important. I use it. But we need to work from the inside, all this, so the outside can come out easily. All this, once again, it is very vital for us to know. Once we start working from the inside, the rest is going to be so much easy, because we understand why is it that we're using it? Why is it that we're doing it? Why is it that we are practicing all this? It's not because it's a Jewish thing. It's because the Torah commands it. It's just a fact. Chapter 9, verse 4 of Deuteronomy. Do not think to yourselves after you Almighty has destroyed you from before you. It is because of my tzedakah, my righteousness, that Yahweh has brought me to take possession of this land. But because these nations have been so wicked, that Yahweh is driving them out from before you. See, we tend to think that because of our righteousness, Yahweh did all this, because of my deeds, because of my devotion to our Creator. Don't get me wrong, all that is very good. But in reality, at the end of the day, that's not it. The world is wicked. The world drives themselves with money. The world drives themselves with power. But in reality, Yahweh is the king of all the universes. He's still sitting on his throne. He still has the last call. And it's very vital for us to understand that it's not because what we have achieved in this life, which is at the end of the day, it is nothing. but we always have to bring about the merits, the justification, the righteousness of our Mashiach. Let me show you why. Philippians chapter 3, verse 9, and look at what Shaul speaks about to this community in the Philippians. And be found in him, on Mashiach, not having my own righteousness, my own justification, my own tzedakah, derived from the Torah, but what is which by emunah, which is perseverance in Mashiach. The righteousness that proceeds from Yahweh in the basis of perseverance, which is emunah. Here's the thing, and this is the locking key. We need to acknowledge the Mashiach and his deeds, what he have achieved for all of us. Without him, we are nothing. The scripture is very, very clear when it speaks about that. So every time we do the Torah, we're doing it because we love our Creator by obedience. Not because you feel that you want to serve the Creator. No, it's because you're acting your obedience. All that is very good because you practice the Shabbat, because you practice the festivals, you execute the festivals, you practice, you acknowledge what the Creator says. All that is good, but always putting your faith in this justification that you're doing all this because of Mashiach's deeds. All this is because he is the one putting his name for you and I. It is very vital, and Shaul acknowledged this. See, if you really think about Shaul, Paul, he was the Pharisee of Pharisees. He knew the Torah back and forth. He knew the Torah by heart. He executed the Torah to the max. He could bring all this, brothers and sisters, and yet he said, all this is nothing. The Torah speaks about for me to do it, but at the end of the day, is the Mashiach's deeds, his righteousness. And faith, I know they call it faith outside, but in reality it's emunah. Emunah is perseverance is basically when you persevere, when you endure to do the Torah in the good and the bad times, you persevere, then everything is going to be okay. And that's what it's all about. Look at what it says in Ezekiel 18:24. On the other hand, when they're tzaddik, the righteous, turn from his righteousness and commits iniquities according to the transgressions that the transgressor makes, will he live? That's a question. None of the righteous works he did will be remembered. For the transgressions and sins he had committed, he will die. See, we tend to think that just because we have done this, we have done that, we have kept the Torah, we have kept the Shabbat, we have acknowledged the festivals, we think that because of all that, if we make any errors or any sins, and we continue doing it, we think that we're okay. We're not. It's because at the end of the day, is the Rahim, the mercy of our Creator and the deeds of our Mashiach. That's why Yahweh has mercy towards us. That's at the end of the day, that's what it is. Let me give you an example of all this. Look at chapter 18, verse 9 and 10. And to some who learn on their own, lean on their own justification and despise others, he told this parable. 2 men went to the temple to pray. One was Parush, Pharisee, and the other tax collector. We know for a fact that we know that parable. The Pharisee was, both of them were praying, standing, of course, in the temple. and the other one was exalting himself for all the things I have achieved, and he was despising the other guy next door. Like this one is a hypocrite. He is this, he's that. And at the end of the day, Mashiach asked this question: who went home justified? And they all said it was a tax collector, because he was humble himself, that he was nothing in the eyes of Yahweh. See, at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, we always need to be humble, meek. Doesn't matter how many good things we do, but at the end of the day, we always have to weigh ourselves in the deeds of our Mashiach, because our deeds are nothing at the end of the day, even though we do the Torah, but we always have to acknowledge Mashiach. Because of him, we are here. That's point blank. Now, before we change to a different gear, look at what it says here, Proverbs 30, verse 12. A perverse generation judges itself to be pure, but it does not cleanse the filth from its way. And it's exactly what is going on in this very age. Nowadays, a lot of people try to, this generation X and also the previous generation, we tend to think that we are pure because we do this, because we do that, they judge themselves to be pure. But in the eyes of Yahweh, their filth is very clear, and not a lot of people see it. And we need to be very careful when it comes to judging ourselves. In other words, excusing ourselves to be, we are so righteous. We're not. Neither one of us. We need to always acknowledge the deeds of our Mashiach. It's very, very crucial. Now let's change gears real quick, like 5 minutes or so. Look at what it says here, chapter 9 or verse 9 of Devarim or Deuteronomy. I have gone up to the mountain to receive the luchot, the tablet of stone, the tablets on which was written the berit, the covenant that Yahweh had made with you. Moshe is recounting what happened in the past. I stayed on the mountain for 40 days and nights without eating food and drinking water. What he meant on this very verse, 2 tablets, 2 luchots. And I want you to understand something that is probably not talked about in the mainstream media, okay? We're going to bring it to light. Chapter 32, verse 15 of Exodus, or Shemot, Moshe turned and came down from the mountain with 2 tablets, 2 luchot of the testimony in his hand. Tablets inscribed in both sides, front and back. Now let me pause this for a moment, and we are going to delve deep into this so we understand better on this. The word both means sheni. Sheni means 2, but also means to be duplicate or duplicated. So what happened here? It was front and back. How did that happen? Let's find out. Chapter 32, verse 16 of Exodus, the tablets were the work of Yahweh, and the scripture was the scriptures of Yahweh engraved on the tablets. This was engraved by Yahweh himself. He did that with his finger. But what was the made of the tablets? Look at 24 verse 10. And they saw a Yil Almighty of Israel. Beneath his feet was something like a transparency of sapphire or sapphire, as clean as the Shemayim, as the heavens. The mountain where Moshe was on fire. But when he was in there, his feet were, because it was so contraction of the heavens and earth, he could actually feel his feet that it resembles like sapphire, and it was sapphire, okay, like the heavens, blue like the heavens. And this is how the sapphire looks, okay, just blue like the heaven. Now, the tablets were made work of Yahweh. They were blue like sapphire, okay? But what did Yahweh did? How did he inscribe the tablets? And this is the way he did. He performed it from the front. He inscribed, I am Yahweh, Ayil Almighty, okay? And in the back was writing the 6 pronunciation or saying, you should not commit murder. Okay, so at the same time that he was writing this first saying, he was writing the 6th saying. Now let me explain when I say saying, because it's not commandments. Okay, the commandments are 613 commandments. These are pronunciations that Yahweh said. That's why if you read chapter 20, it says these are the words that Yahweh spoke. It doesn't say these are the commandments. These are the words that Yahweh spoke. There are 10 pronunciations. So the first one was, I am Yahweh Almighty, and the 6th in the back was writing at the same time he was writing that. Can you imagine that? So this work were the work of Yahweh. They were sapphire, okay? They were exquisite, unique tablets. And nations around, they were doing the same practice. In other words, when somebody was making a covenant, okay? When somebody was making a covenant with another person, one was keeping one copy and the other one was keeping the other copy. But I want you to understand, before we end this, something very important. When Yahweh was making the first pronunciation, he was making the next one. He was making the second, he was making the next one. Give an example like you saw earlier. He was making, I am Yahweh your Almighty. And he was making what? He was making, do not commit murder. And the next one was making, and he was making the next one, number 7, and so forth. If you flip it that way, it will become the same thing. If you flip it like this, it will become the same thing. If you face it together like this, it will be one related to another. It is very important, like I said, all this, because those things are very hidden for a long time, and now we understand why Yahweh did the way he did. Now another thing, and let me go back over here. Have you ever asked yourself why he did make 2 tablets instead of 1? Because he easily could give us like 1 tablet, and because obviously it was written back and forth, front and back, right? The first 5 in the front, and the first in the second line of 5 more pronunciations were in the back. But why duplicate? And I truly believe that there are 2 houses. The scripture speaks about 2 houses, 2 kingdoms. The northern kingdom as the house of Israel, Ephraim, and the southern kingdom as the house of Judah, our Jewish brothers. I believe that our Creator is giving to each one of us 1 tablet each kingdom. And each kingdom has the same 10 pronunciations. Jeremiah, if you want to write it down, chapter 31, verse 31, and also Hebrews chapter 8 and also chapter 10. It speaks about, in those days I will make a covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not the covenant that I made in the mountain or in the desert, but I will write them in their hearts. And I truly believe, brothers and sisters, that He has given us this for us. One tablet for our Jewish brothers and the other tablet for the northern kingdom, us. I am Moreh Rapha'Yah. We'll see you next time. The Creator help us to understand more and more Torah. And please subscribe if you haven't, so you can get more productions coming up soon. Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you next time.
We'll begin.